Welcome everybody. It's 4 o'clock. Welcome to the webinar with Ernest Mast, CEO of Doré Copper Mining, and Laurie Gaborit. She's the Vice President Investor Relations. I think we wait 2 minutes as usual. And as usual, I will translate a little bit, or I will speak a little bit on German. And as you see, I have now a geologist bird. Yeah, so lockdown is working in Germany and the barbershops are still closed. Ja, willkommen zusammen für unsere deutschen Besucher, die wieder mehr als 50% sind, ausmachen. Einen schönen Tag. Ich hoffe, es geht Ihnen allen gut. Sie sehen, ich gehe nicht zum Friseur heimlich und sitze auch in keinem Keller. Ich gehe weder zum Barbier noch zum Friseur, aber es läuft ganz gut mit dem Bartwuchs. Und hier in Frankfurt läuft es ohnehin ganz gut. Die Stadt ist recht ruhig. Ich sitze hier direkt am Hauptbahnhof und ich heiße Sie heute ganz herzlich willkommen zum Seminar, zum Webinar mit Doré Copper Mining, einer Firma aus Kanada. Bei uns ist Ernest Mast, der CEO und Gründer. Mitgründer, es waren 3 Gründer, und Laurie Gaborit, sie macht die Investor Relations als Vice President. Und vielleicht vorab, das ist ihr Gold-Kupfer, also ganz interessanter Play, während der Goldpreis heute ja auf die Unterstützung gefallen ist bei 17,75, da war vor einer Stunde, und ich hoffe, dass er dreht, hausiert Kupfer ja, und das sieht ganz gut aus und das ist hier ein ganz guter Mix. Wir haben nämlich kein Exploration Play wie üblich, sondern das ist ein Unternehmen, was gar nicht so weit weg ist von der Produktion, 2 bis maximal 3 Jahre, einfach weil ein Teil der Infrastruktur schon vorhanden ist, unter anderem eine Mühle. Aber das werden Sie gleich in der Präsentation sehen. Wir werden wieder eine Präsentation machen. Ich hoffe, 20 Minuten erreichen dann. Und dann werden wir eine Q&A-Runde machen, wo Sie mir im Chat Ihre Fragen stellen können. So, before I forget it, you can ask, after the presentation, you can ask the questions to Ernie and Laurie, and just write them into the chat, and I will ask them. Okay, so I think we can start now. It's 4:03. Ernest, maybe you can introduce yourself quickly and then share your screen and start with the presentation.
Yes, thank you, Tarik, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ernest Mast, President, CEO of Doré Copper. I'm one of the founders of the company and a metallurgical engineer by training with experience in base metals and precious metals. Along with me is Laurie Gaborit, our Vice President, Investor Relations. She's a geologist by training and a very experienced investor relations professional. I shall share my screen and I'll go over our corporate presentation. You can see this presentation on our website, www.dorecopper.com. We're listed on the TSX.v. What the company is all about is putting in a hub and spoke operation where we have a number of mines that are copper and gold feeding a centralized milling facility where we would make copper concentrate and doré metal. These mines that we have, in many cases, have already been built and the mill is already in place. So in our case, we are an exploration company where we're looking to increase the size of the deposits. But just as importantly, we're also a development company because we have all the infrastructure in place. And it's a matter of growing the resources, rehabilitating the mines, deciding on the sequence of the mines, and then putting the plant into, or putting the plan into operation. With a few mines in operation, we believe we can attain 100,000 ounces per year of gold equivalent or 60 million pounds a year of copper equivalent. This is the team that's in place. As I mentioned, I'm one of the founders of the company. You know those gentlemen, as they're also involved in the mining sector in Canada. On the board of directors, we have a very good mix of financial people, operations people with experience in Quebec. I'll mention also on the team, Mr. Jean Tanguay, who was an operations manager with Campbell Mines, and our exploration manager, Mr. Andre Rinta, spent many years with Kinross in the far east of Russia, working on the large geological package around the Kupol mine. The company was formed in 2017 as a private company with the expressed intent of acquiring these assets. The assets were held by Ocean Partners, who had acquired them from a creditor restructuring of a company called Campbell Mines. The arrangement we made with Ocean Partners was that they would pass us 30%, we would award them 30% of our company in exchange for the assets. And then that came to fruition in 2019 when we went public with the RTO. This made Ocean Partners the largest shareholder. Since then, they have been diluted down to approximately 20%. Ocean Partners are a commercial metals trading company, and they retain the offtake rights to the concentrate that we will produce. So during 2020, the company did an option to acquire the Joe Mann gold mine. We drilled 20 Corner Bay and Cedar Bay properties. And during 2021, we will do resource updates and then a PEA showing how we plan on putting the mines into operation. The capital structure of the company is quite simple. There's approximately 40 million shares outstanding now. We are currently closing a financing this week, and that's going to increase the share count to 50 million. But most importantly, our working capital will be approximately $16 million. So we will have sufficient cash to go through the next cycle of exploration and studies. Other important shareholders are some Quebec funds, including the large Quebec pension fund. Insiders are heavily invested in the company with 15% ownership. And we also have Resource Capital Funds, which is a private equity group out of the United States, who also give us some very good technical support. We have coverage by Paradigm and Cormark, and you can talk to Tarik about receiving those analyst reports. The company's commodities are copper and gold, and these are two excellent commodities. Gold prices, they're a little down today, but we do see gold prices very close to the record prices of $1,900 an ounce, and even today's price of $1,775 is still very, very strong. We do believe that with the upcoming low interest rate environment as a result of the COVID response that we're going to see by central banks, that gold prices should still remain very high. For copper, there's a fundamental supply-demand imbalance that is occurring. We're seeing on the supply side, we're seeing depletion of large mines, mainly in South America, occur. It's very difficult to get new large mines approved and into production. And on the demand side, there's the continued increase in copper use in developing nations. But now what we're seeing is a trend in developed nations as we electrify transportation and change the energy production model from very large thermoelectric plants to smaller plants, whether they're wind. So for instance, on this slide, you do see that the average electric vehicle or hybrid vehicle uses 2 to 3 times more copper than a traditional internal combustion engine vehicle. This plus all the charging stations that will be required and the infrastructure for that result in increased intensity of copper usage in developed nations. And that's something we haven't seen in many years. And so this all bodes very well for the copper price going forward. Right now, today, copper prices are at $3.80. In Canadian dollars, they're probably at an all-time high, and the trend appears as if it's going to continue to rise. Here we see a map of our land position. We have 10,700 hectares of land in northern Quebec. This is 500 kilometers north of Montreal, in an area well serviced by road, rail, and air travel. The deposits that we have, number 12 in total on this map, we're only showing 6. And our deposits are a nice mix of copper and gold. For instance, Joe Mann is a high-grade gold property. Corner Bay is a high-grade copper property. This camp produced from our deposits 1.6 billion ounces of gold. That was between the 1950s and 2008, when the previous company stopped its operations. We do believe there's great exploration potential at our deposits, and that's our job, to continue to find more mineral. This graph quickly shows the grades that we have at our major deposits. At Corner Bay and Cedar Bay on the left-hand side, we can see the copper equivalent grade is 3.5%, making our deposits some of the highest grade deposits in North America. And on the gold side, the Joe Mann grade and the Cedar Bay grade are very competitive with the highest grade underground gold mines in Canada. When we combine those high grades with the fact that we're close to a town, we have infrastructure in place, which should decrease the capital intensity of the investment. An operation where we don't have a camp, where workers can go home every night, we think we have a very attractive proposition here for everyone. I will now talk about the deposits one by one. I'll talk about 4 of our deposits. The first one being the Corner Bay deposit. This deposit has resources over 3 million tons at about 3.5% copper and 0.28 grams per ton gold. The mine was 90% built by the previous operator, and he stopped his project in 2008, having built 2 kilometers of underground development, accessed 3 levels, and took a 40,000 ton bulk sample that was processed in our mill 45 kilometers away, getting 94% recovery. You can see from the photo of the core, the mineralization is almost pure chalcopyrite mixed in with some pyrite. We have very low impurities in this ore, making the result will be that the concentrate produced will be #1 quality. And here we see a long section of the Corner Bay deposit where it starts at surface and goes down to 1,200 meters. The deposit is open in many directions, and the area shaded in blue is where we drilled during 2020, where we had numerous intercepts between 6 and 7.5 meters thick, with grades between 2.4% and 9% copper. So for instance, hole 20-17 was 7 meters at 9.08%. And in the presentation, I show a photo of that intercept where you can see very rich chalcopyrite mineralization. During the course of 2021, we will drill this deposit in the different directions that you see here to test its where it's open. So that is the Corner Bay deposit. The Joe Mann deposit, this is a past producing mine that we acquired an option for. To finalize the option, we owe the owners $3 million over 2 years and must spend another $2.5 million, and we would owe $1.5 million of shares. This past producing mine produced 1.2 million ounces of gold at a grade of 8.26 grams per ton gold. Our drilling efforts last year focused on the far west zone, the main zone, and the west zone. The historic production was mainly from the main zone, and there's a shaft going down to 1,145 meters here. The option we have is for a land package of 1,990 hectares. And the company already owns some property in the district. So for instance, the west zone that we drilled was already on company property, not on option property. Here we see a long section of the Joe Mann deposit with the main zone on the right and the west zone on the left. On the west zone, during our drilling last year, we intercepted 4 meters at 10.34 grams per ton gold. This was an extension of the unmined area of the west zone. And on the main zone, we intercepted 1.3 meters at 6.3 grams gold and 0.52% copper. And this was an intercept between the historic drilling, or the lowest level of the mine, and a couple of very high-grade holes that were drilled after the mine had closed. These holes were averaging 27 and 30 grams per ton. So it's obvious that the mineralization on these 2 zones extended depth, And our plans for this area here is to evaluate dewatering and drilling from underground. On the far west zone, we had an intercept of 3 meters at 10 grams per ton and 0.4 meters at 40 grams per ton. This is a shallow area, and this area, that area, we're actually resampling the entire core to ensure that we detect all of the gold, because that 0.4 meters at 40 grams came as a bit of a surprise to us when we got the assay back. That area close to surface is approximately a kilometer west of the shaft, and is an area that has a tunnel already at 160 meters deep. And so potentially we can come in and mine that area as well. We'll now talk about the Cedar Bay deposit. This deposit was a past producing mine that closed in 1990. It produced 3.9 million tons at 1.63% copper and 3.2 grams gold. The current resources are 360,000 tons, 8.7 grams gold and 1.9% copper, making it a very high grade deposit. The resources be in central. During our drilling last year, we extended those 3 structures at depth. So the 3 structures are open at depth, and our plans here again are to dewater this mine and drill essentially from the bottom of the shaft to test the structures to establish the resources. During the drilling, we also encountered some very high grade intercept near the drill collar at the Copper Cliff property that averaged 13.6 grams per ton gold and 7.3% copper. And finally, the Copper Rand deposit. This is the largest, or was the largest deposit in the camp, produced 1.5 million ounces of gold and 500 million pounds of copper, and stopped operations in 2008. The grades are a little less than 2% copper and a little less than 3 grams per ton gold. There are resources at shallower depth in the mine, and when they stopped mining, they were very deep at 15. Copper Rand are first to see how we plan on develop Cedar Bay, and then we can drift across to mine the Copper Rand 5000 section at depth, or we can dewater the upper part of the mine and mine out some of the resources that are left there. But we will not start our hub and spoke operation with Copper Rand. It's going to come into the life of mine plan later on. One of the keys for our successful hub and spoke operation is the fact that we already have a mill. The mill is located 14 kilometers from the town of Chibougamau and has a capacity of 2,700 tons per day. The mill last operated in 2008, at which time the operators emptied out all the mills, the flotation cells, the thickeners, and put the mill on standby. The mill is a traditional crushing, grinding, flotation circuit. We have a tailings facility 2 kilometers from the mill that still has 8 million tons of capacity. The tailings facility, that capacity should be sufficient for at least 10 years, considering the fact also that if we use tailings for backfill of the mining stopes, the life of the tailings can become quite long. The town of Chibougamau itself has 7,500 people and was built in the 1950s, associated with the commencement of mining in the district. And of course, another very important part of our business is our relationship with stakeholders. The First Nation group that we will work with is the Ojibwe Cree. They have a community located about 50 kilometers away from our sites. They're very experienced with natural resources, and we're already working with Cree-based companies. For instance, our drilling company has a joint venture with the Cree community, and also we use other Cree companies for other exploration services. So we're establishing a very good relationship with them. Being in Quebec is a great advantage for the company. Quebec is a mature mining jurisdiction and have a lot of experience regulating and dealing fairly with mining companies. Quebec also has the provision for a number of funds that actually invest in your mining project. So currently we have the Quebec Pension Fund, we have a Quebec Exploration Fund, and we have a Northern Development Fund investing in the company. And these are companies that will continue to invest with us as we go forward through to development of the company. So the plans we have for 2021 is we'll continue to drill, mainly at Corner Bay and at Joe Mann, but we will drill some of the other properties we have. The drilling at Corner Bay and Joe Mann expressively will be to increase the size of the resources. At some of the other exploration sites on the company's property, we're drilling more for exploration purposes. We will do a mineral resource update in the second quarter and then look to do a PEA by the end of the year. We'll also reevaluate, we'll evaluate the dewatering of the Joe Mann and Cedar Bay shafts, and we'll advance our relationship with the First Nations on a more formal basis. As part of the PEA, we will do more detailed mine studies and also look at the exact cost of restarting the mill. The mill, as I mentioned before, is in very good mechanical shape. We will look at putting in a new control system and possibly changing out some of the electrical equipment. And that should lead to 2022, when we will continue to advance our projects in a more in-depth way. So the company has assembled a large land package of copper gold, past producing mines with resources in a very prolific mineral camp in Quebec. That goes along with excellent infrastructure of a mill, tailings facility, power, water, and connectivity. Very difficult to recreate that type or replicate that type of asset package that we have for the current cost of the company. And the goal of the company is to see how we can get all of these assets into operation to begin operating, taking advantage of the high copper and gold prices that we currently see. And so when we're successful, we'll be a low-cost producer of copper with a gold byproduct credit, targeting 100,000 ounces a year of gold equivalent, or 60 million pounds a year of copper equivalent. Thank you very much for your time and spending your time with us. Hear our story.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation, Ernest. We have already some questions. Let's start with the current financing. At the moment, the company is doing a financing. So the questions are, when will it be closed? Are they new investors, institutional addresses you can name, maybe? And how will you spend the money? And just give us a quick overview how much money you have now after the financing, please.
So after the financing, we will have $16 million. And so we'll be really financed. The funds will be used, the 10 or 11 million coming in right now is known as flow-through funding. So we will be using it on exploration. The exploration that we'll be using it on is at Corner Bay, at Joe Mann, close to Cedar Bay, and some other targets that the company has. We may potentially also use this financing for dewatering of Joe Mann or Cedar Bay so that we can commence drilling from underground. We do have some new names coming into the company because of the nature of this financing, where it's called charity flow-through. It's only after it closes do I get the exact names. We do know the group which is acquiring the charity flow-through portion of it. But I've been told by our bankers that of the new names coming in, some mining industry professionals who are very well known and look to support the company. Okay. And I should mention also that the financing will close on Thursday.
So tomorrow. Okay. Yeah. I will translate that into German too. Das Financing ist gerade läuft, das Volumen ist 9,9 Millionen Kann-Dollar. Danach wird die Firma 16 Millionen Kann-Dollar auf dem Konto haben und damit kommt man sehr weit. Also zum einen wird es ins Budget fließen für die Exploration von 3 der 4 der Deposits vorkommen und außerdem könnte man schon das Dewatering der ehemaligen Mine angehen, dass man da auch schon mal die nächsten Schritte unternimmt. Namen von neuen Investoren. Es gibt eine ganze Reihe von neuen Investoren, die kennt Ernie auch, hat er von seinem Banker schon gesagt bekommen, aber bevor das Financing morgen geschlossen wird, kann er keine Namen nennen, aber er sagte, das sind durchaus bekannte Namen. Das heißt, wenn die Meldung dazu kommt, dann dürfte der eine oder andere Name uns bekannt vorkommen. Ernie, next question. We will see a PEA this year, is that right? And the feasibility then next year, yeah?
Correct. We're aiming to do our PEA by the end of this year, and then we should see the feasibility about a year later.
Yeah, and what will be the capex if you start building the mine? What do you think?
So there's a few different scenarios that we can look at. If we look at starting up two of the mines, one of them being Corner Bay, and the other mine either Cedar Bay or Joe Mann, plus the rehabilitation of the mill, we estimate approximately $120 million Canadian to get started. That could be less, for instance, if we decide just to start Corner Bay and the mill. But our plan is to have at least two mines operating because we do have sufficient mill capacity for at least two mines operating.
Die Frage in Richtung CapEx, also wenn dann der Minenbau kommt, und er hatte ja gesagt, in 2 Jahren, spätestens 3 Jahren soll es soweit sein, dann reden wir wahrscheinlich über 120 Millionen Kann-Dollar. Das ist nicht viel. Wichtig ist, er kann, da die Mühle relativ groß ist, in einem guten Zustand, gleich von 2 Vorkommen aus die Mühle liefern mit Erz und dementsprechend will man da auch investieren. Also da kommt das CapEx her. Just a short question. What about the mill? If you would have to build it new, what would be the price of this kind of mill?
So to build a new mill with that type of capacity would cost approximately $75 million Canadian.
Okay, also wenn man diese Mühle, die schon vorhanden ist in einem guten Zustand, neu bauen müsste, dann wäre das ungefähr von 75 kann, also eine Menge, und das wächst natürlich deutlich, aber diese Mühle ist, wie gesagt, schon im Besitz des Unternehmens. Dann habe ich noch eine Metallurgie-Frage, die kommt eigentlich immer. What about the metallurgy? So you have gold and copper. Do you have any byproducts, and how does that work with the metallurgy? Do you have to invest special things into the mill, or how can we see that point?
Yes, okay, and I'll just clarify something on the overall capital cost. When I mentioned 120 million, included in that is approximately $15 million for the mill between direct and indirect costs, and the rest of that investment is in the mines to do additional underground development to access the ore. And so regarding this question on the metallurgy, all the ores in the district have very similar mineralogy, so that there are coarse particles of chalcopyrite. Only byproduct we would have is gold doré. So the equipment we have in the mill would be a gravity circuit to recover the free gold, and then traditional flotation to make the copper concentrate.
Okay, thanks. Also noch ein kurzer Nachtrag zu den 120 Millionen Dollar CapEx. 15 Millionen davon werden wahrscheinlich ungefähr in die Mühle fließen, um die auf den modernsten Stand zu bringen. Das hat er ja auch während der Präsentation so ein bisschen erläutert, was da nochmal gemacht werden muss. Und der Rest geht tatsächlich in die Wiederherstellung des Untergrunds. Das sind ja alles Vorkommen, wo schon Gold abgebaut wurde oder Kupfer. Das heißt, da ist vieles vorhanden, aber natürlich muss es auf den neuesten Stand gebracht werden. Zur Metallurgie. Es gibt quasi keine Beiprodukte, die das alles kompliziert machen. Die Mineralisierung in dieser Gegend ist sehr ähnlich. Das heißt, man kann das relativ einfach verarbeiten. Another question. Somebody heard in an interview with you that you said that you're looking for to purchase land or other companies. Why and where?
Okay, so the district that we're in is a very prolific mineral district, and in addition to our company, there's approximately 4 or 5 other companies drilling in the area. If any of those companies were to find a nice copper gold deposit, that potentially could be an acquisition for us, because we have the only mill in the district. So it would make sense that we would be the owners of that property. So we would really only do an acquisition in the area, and only if the company has identified an interesting deposit that would complement the deposits that we currently own.
Okay. So I translated again. Übernahmen sind durchaus im Gespräch, und zwar nur in dieser Region, in diesem Mining District. Der ist sehr etabliert oder prolific, wie die Kanadier sagen. Dort gibt es 4, 5 Firmen, die auch Explorationsarbeit betreiben. Allerdings besitzt Doré Copper die einzige Mühle in dieser Region. Und somit hat man natürlich einen Vorsprung. Und es ist auch tatsächlich so, das hat er jetzt zwar nicht erwähnt, aber diese 4 Vorkommen, die waren noch nie in der Hand eines Unternehmens. Und das macht es natürlich einfach. Und wenn dann die Gelegenheit kommt, dann würde man sich das anschauen, ob man dann eine Übernahme macht oder auch nicht. Ernie, one more question. You have now 16 million in the bank. Will this be enough to go to the financing, or will you have to finance in between sometime?
It's a very good question. I suspect we will, when we finish the PA, we still will have significant funds. And then at that point, we'll evaluate whether we need another small financing to get us to the end of the feasibility.
Okay. Okay. Ja, also eine kleine Finanzierung ist nochmal möglich vor dem Minenbau, bevor man den ganzen Minenbau finanziert. Aber das ist noch relativ offen. Also es könnte sein, dass die 16 Millionen reichen oder auch nicht. Kommt dann natürlich auch darauf an, wenn man eine Übernahme machen kann, dann schlägt man vielleicht nochmal zu. I have a question about Even Downey. Ernest?
Yes.
Is he in operative work with the company, or what is his function?
So Ewan Downey is also one of the founders of the company. Yeah. And Ewan Downey is an official advisor to the company. So I will speak to him on a regular basis to discuss mainly strategy as we go forward.
Okay, thank you. Also Even Downey, danach wurde nochmal gefragt, der ist als Berater für das Unternehmen tätig und ist auch einer der Mitgründer und ist in einer Beratungsfunktion, also operativ ist ja Interpretationssache bei Beratern immer. Genau. Okay, so I think that are all the questions. Just let me see. Maybe you just for the end, wir sind jetzt auch ziemlich am Schluss, vielleicht gibt er noch mal einen kurzen Ausblick, was jetzt als nächstes passiert. So Ernie, maybe you can just give a small outlook, a quick outlook about what will happen next. So we will see exploration results. When we will see that, when we will have the PEA, is it Q4 or maybe Q3, and when the feasibility?
Okay, so what we'll see first off are exploration results from different properties that we have. As I mentioned, we're drilling Corner Bay. We will drill Mann. We're drilling adjacent to Cedar Bay, and we have a couple of other areas that we're drilling. And then we should see the update in the resources. The update in resources will probably come out sequentially. So first we'll see the resource update for Corner Bay, and then we'll see one for Joe Mann. And then towards, I'd say probably Q4, we would see the PA. And then assuming the all goes well after the PA, we should see the feasibility approximately 1 year after that.
Okay, thank you. So I translate again. Also wir sehen jetzt erstmal Explorationsergebnisse, denn es laufen ja Bohrarbeiten. Dann sehen wir 2 Resource Updates für Cedar Bay und Joe Mann. Dann die PEA, das kommt im Q4 wahrscheinlich, früher wird knapp. Und die Feasibility, die Study, die Machbarkeitsstudie, dann die können wir erwarten für 1 Jahr nach der PEA. Also muss man sehen, wie schnell das geht. Und wie Sie auch wissen, vielleicht als Hinweis von meiner Seite auch mit Bohrergebnissen, es staut sich in den Laboren, weil da wegen der Pandemie halt nicht so gearbeitet werden kann wie sonst, während die Firmen, die sind natürlich weit weg von Orten. In diesem Fall zwar jetzt nicht so weit, aber so weit, dass man Abstand halten kann, dass man da gut Exploration betreiben kann. Aber das wird dann eingeschickt und das machen gerade alle Firmen und alle Labore in Quebec, aber auch in Kanada und anderen Teilen der Welt hängen hinterher. Das heißt, da kann es noch Verzögerungen geben. Ernest, we have one more question to the costs. What do you think will be the cost if you go into production? So the operating costs or ASIC maybe. I don't know if you can say something solid about that.
Yeah, no, we've done some desktop modeling, and our all-in sustaining cost copper with the byproduct, we should be less than $1.50 a pound.
Okay. Also es gab ja jetzt auch die Frage zu den Produktionskosten, wenn die Mine in Betrieb geht, und er sagt, man wäre bei $1,50 pro Pfund bei Kupfer mit inklusive der Beiprodukte, also in diesem Fall hauptsächlich Gold. Das sind IASIC-Kosten und das ist jetzt mal eine grobe Schätzung. Also man hat da aber selbst intern schon Modelle gemacht. Es ist natürlich noch ein bisschen früh, das genau jetzt festzulegen, weil wir nicht wissen, wie zum Beispiel die Energiepreise sind in 2 Jahren, wenn der Betrieb startet, oder andere Kosten, Arbeitskosten etc. Das muss man natürlich noch sehen, aber das ist, glaube ich, das zeigt ganz gut, wir haben jetzt einen Kupferpreis von knapp unter 4, 3,75 glaube ich. Kupfer ist auf einem neuen Jahreshoch, ja, und auch wenn die Börse gestern und heute ein bisschen schwächer war, Kupfer war stabil, obwohl der Dollar heute stark war. Also das sind ganz gute Aussichten, glaube ich, und selbst bei einem Produktionskosten von 1,50 je Pfund wäre man halt ganz gut dabei, wenn es auch mal ein bisschen wieder runtergeht mit dem Kupferpreis. Okay, good.
Yes,
ich glaube, das war's. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And you know, obviously, when the PA comes out, a lot of the questions which the viewers have, a lot of the questions from the viewers, those will come to light.
Genau. Also ein großer Teil der Fragen wird dann auch beantwortet, sobald die PEA da ist, die Wirtschaftlichkeitsstudie. Logisch, dann hat man auf jeden Fall eine gute, sagen wir mal, Orientierung, wo die Kosten liegen, etc., wie viel produziert werden kann und so weiter. Okay, Ernest. Laurie,
thank you very
much for the presentation, for your time, and for answering the questions. Yeah, and the audience, thank you very much for staying live with us here. I hope to meet you virtually the next time, and maybe physically again at one point. I hope in fall. So have a good time and stay healthy. Ja, vielen Dank für Ihre Teilnahme. Hat mich wieder gefreut. Wenn Sie noch Fragen haben, einfach schreiben an uns, an mich oder an die Firma. Den Newsletter abonnieren auf der Webseite von Doré Copper, und ich kann Ihnen auch Analystenreports zuschicken, wenn Sie mich direkt anschreiben. Alles klar, Dankeschön. Machen Sie es gut. Have a nice day. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.